welcome to another episode of Film Sphere Podcast. My name is Alex, your host, and today we have Garreth, Nicholas, and Leya, and special guest Angel Benitez, a producer from Mexico. He is an acquaintance of my friend who also works in Mexican films. So how are you today, Angel?
Nice, and thank you for inviting me here.
Thanks for being here. So we prepared a series of questions to ask you. We'll just start from there. All right. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, of course. I'm a producer from Ciudad Juárez, Chihuahua. I work a lot here in Ciudad Juárez. I work a little in Mexico City. I lived there for 5 years. And that's where my experience comes from. A little bit from cinema, a little bit from publicity, from music videos, a little bit of everything, but everything goes in the audiovisual medium.
Do you go to El Paso too? Or
of course.
Just there?
Of course. I mean, I'm not exactly able to work there because I'm just a Mexican citizen, but I've done independent jobs with friends. Actually, yesterday we just filmed the last scene from our short film, Debajo de la Almohada. You will be able to see it, I hope, really soon. And yeah, we got like really impressed because when we were shooting, suddenly there came the SpaceX ship that I don't know if you guys saw, but yesterday there came like a spaceship from SpaceX, and it was like in the middle of our shoot. And it was like, wow, it just came up so impressively.
Is it gonna be in the movie?
I don't think so. Camera wasn't ready. I'm already a little mad with the camera crew, but yeah, we got it with our cell phones, so it's something for the stories at least.
But it's funny you mentioned you got upset at the camera crew. One of the questions was, how would you handle the crew if they weren't doing a good job as you'd hope or want?
Yeah, in this situation, I'm just actually joking a little bit. I mean, the camera crew wasn't ready for that to shoot something that wasn't prepared. But I'm always like this kid in, I don't know, I don't remember what's the movie name, but this kid that's actually saying production value, and there's a train with like everything happening in the back. So whenever things like this happen, I get really excited about the production value that we can get from it. But yeah, it wasn't prepared for it. I mean, it was just like something that could have been pretty cool to have. But yeah, it was just like that. And from the question, I think that you always have to be ready for many situations. You have to have a plan A, plan B, plan C for everything. So if you have all of those plans for a situation where someone's not ready, when someone's late on their deadlines, you can always plan on something else. And actually, I worked recently in a documentary with a new friend that I made. It's called Walter. And he gave me this phrase that I like a lot, and I'm going to use from now on, which is, I forgot that. I'm sorry. It is what it is. He actually came up with that phrase, and I really liked it because, of course, as a producer, you have to be ready for many situations, for many things that you can actually try to overcome at the moment that they happen. But there's gonna be this moment when there's nothing you can do. There's actually nothing or any other way you can solve things. So it is what it is, and you work from there. If you already accept that and you are okay with that, you can actually make something better out of it instead of just like blocking yourself out and just letting that overwhelm you.
That makes sense. So what exactly do you do as a producer?
Well, I'm actually a little more in the field part. I like it a little more right now, but always in production, I think that you have to be a little bit on the administrative part and a little bit in the field part. So I think where my biggest picture right now is in the field part. I think that's where I have a little more of my, I don't know how to say it, but of the good parts of my job, I think that's where I outstand a little more. But in the administrative part, I always like that little time that you have as a producer for yourself to be just you and your computer and thinking about how you're gonna solve some things. So accordingly from the part that I don't have many experience in that part, on the administrative part, I think that I'm really into learning a lot more from it so I can become a better producer. But yeah, I think that is always like a little bit of both. You have to be 50-50 all the time, at least here in your head.
That's I think you might have explained it a little bit just there. What exactly do you like about it? You
About
personally? Yeah.
Um, I mean, there's a lot of things to be fair, but I started on this world with acting when I was 11 years old. And for a very long period of time, I actually thought that I was going to be acting just like for my whole life. That's what I thought, like, oh yeah, this is the way, this is going to be my way of living, and my dream to come true. But since I'm 17, I started working in some other areas. I mean, like as a staff for illumination, as a assistant of camera, assistant of director, art decorator. And when I started working in all those areas, I realized that I really like to be a little bit in everything. You know, I really liked what was the process behind everything and not just in front of the camera. So that was when it all began, when it all became like this something that I felt like, oh my God, I could just die in line for this and that'll be perfectly fine. And when I just realized that it was everything, when it came to be a little bigger than acting, it was when I moved to Mexico City. As I told you, I lived there for 5 years, and there I realized with other friends that are actors and that really gave it a time to become the best actors ever with all of whatever that really needs. I realized that production was something that fulfilled me a little more, made me feel a little more complete. And starting from there, I realized that it was everything, because I love the other areas. I love how they managed to create what they created, but I didn't like being on any of these areas, on any of these departments as an specific. I just really like being on everyone, with everyone, like talking to every single department, to every single head of department, and making things happen, like just getting to connect the right people with the right budget, with the right situation, so that dream can come true. That dream can be for a client, that dream can be just an idea that you make on a paper and you just wanted it to make it happen. But I think that was exactly like the moment when I realized that production was the best for me and the best thing that I could do, and the best thing that I could give to this media.
Yeah, it sounds good. I get that because I used to I've done some shoots and I always found I really enjoyed doing a bit of everything.
Yeah.
But I still don't know yet. So that also answers the next question, which is what do you want to be, what made you want to be a producer? I don't know if you want to say more to that or if you think what you said was good enough.
Yeah, I think it's actually kind of clear from the last question, but yeah, it is just a specific part that I just really want to make stories happen. And that's the whole thing, the whole situation. If we make it a little phrase, I just want to make stories happen, stories that I like, stories that I get connected to. And starting from there, all of the other things that I already said are the main reason why I like producing.
What exactly do you look for in a script?
In a script? Okay, first of all, I try to, I don't know if it happens to you, but whenever you go to watch a movie and you already studied cinema, you start seeing a lot of things, like technical things. You start saying like, oh my God, this photography wasn't on point, or the script wasn't right, or the director just didn't came up with the idea that needed to happen. And when I read a script, I really hate to have all those technical things in my head. So the first thing is I try to watch it as a spectator, just someone who's watching it from behind, from the outside, without any technical ideas, just to feel if I can truly connect with the story. Because I really believe that the stories have the right people to make them happen. And if at first I don't even connect with the story, or I don't even think that it makes me feel something, it won't even work. And it might be a bit a prediction, a short film, a movie that needs to be produced by someone else and not by me. But if I read it with those eyes that are like clear of the technicalities, and I really like it. I really enjoy it. I think that's the best ways to start when I read a script. The second part is, I don't know if this happens a lot in USA. I think that's a lot more separately. But here in Mexico, it's very usual that the director is actually the writer, or the writer is the producer, the executive producer, or something like that. So I like to connect not just with the story. That's like first step, connect with the story. Second step, connect with the one that is going to create this story, the writer, the director, the creator in general of the project. I really need to know that I connect with him or with her, because I really need to get to the point where I can say, we together are going to make the best out of this story. If I don't feel like we are going to do that after talking to him, after or her, after reading the script, I don't think that it's going to work. So that's the two main things that I try to focus on. And of course, when I'm already done with all that part of the connection, I go to the technicalities and see like, okay, yeah, I mean, I love the story. I love this director I'm working with, but I mean, dude, you want a dinosaur over a spaceship? I mean, that's not gonna happen, you know, not with like $10,000, okay? But yeah, the third step will be like going to the technicalities to see if I can make it work, I can make it happen with this person I'm working with, or if it's just not going to work with what we have.
Is there anything you don't really like about being a producer?
This is a tricky one. Actually, when I wrote it, it was like, yeah, this is a tricky one. It's not like there's something I don't like about producing, but I think there's always this thing that you are afraid of the most, and that's for sure. The one thing that I'm usually afraid of when I'm producing is that you are not going to make it to the connection that's necessary for the short film to happen. And I'm not just speaking of what I said of the director and the producer connection, or the writer and producer connection. I'm talking about everyone's connection. This actually kind of goes to another question that you already told me that's going to happen. But one of the main things that I try to make happen in a production is that everyone loves what they're doing for it, that everyone connects with each other. It's very usual that like your art department, it's in a little fight with the photography department, or production with direction. Someone has this kind of blocking between each other, right? But getting to that point where the connections that happen and the project gets affected by it, that's like what I'm most afraid of. And when it happens, of course, it's one of those things that I don't like about producing, that you have to already finish this project that is not connecting with the people that's working on it. So more than something that I don't like of producing, it's something that I'm afraid of every time I work on a project. But of course, it's the same thing that gives you the adrenaline to keep going. That's the one thing that you just want to like, I need to make that happen. I need to make everyone really love this thing that we're doing together, so that we all can make the best out of it.
I like that answer a lot. So what makes you a good candidate for film producing?
Actually, I come back a little bit to another answer I gave you. I think that my strongest part is on the field right now, and it goes to the part that I already told you about. I've been working in many other areas. Due to the fact that I learned how it was to be in many other departments before coming to production, I think that I have I don't know if this is the right way to say it, but I think that I have a facility to communicate with other departments. I mean, usually I have friends in production areas that really struggle with having to tell other departments the job they have to do, or what they have to do in a specific time. So being able to have passed their feet, like to have been on their feet and knowing how it is like to get a bad direction or a great direction, I think that makes it easy for me to communicate with them. And that's one of the things that I think it's really a good part that I have, that is something for me. The administrative part, I'm really organized in my life, in my personal life. and economically and many other things. I think that I'm really, really organized, but there's a lot more of the contracts and many other things of this administrative area that I lack of the knowledge of it. Because if I haven't studied specifically for cinema, I studied graphic design for like 5 years. No, I mean for like 3 years, I'm sorry, 5 semesters. And that's the part that I struggle a little bit more with. But the field and the part of communicating with other departments and being able to let them know what we need to make this happen, I think that's a little bit of the best part. Maybe not in English, you already can see that, but yeah, in a general matter, I think that's the strongest part that I have that will make you choose me as a producer.
Do you handle multiple projects at once?
Yeah, I'm sorry that I couldn't listen to Garrett. I don't know if he said
Sorry,
something.
like my mic is really low. I'm so sorry.
No, don't worry, don't worry.
I actually had a off question that we haven't asked before, but like for other film producers, would you suggest that they get firsthand experience in these other areas of film so they have a better job of doing what you would do in the field?
Of course, Garrett, actually, that's some hell of a question, because I think that's something that you will need, and not just for the producer department. I think that's something that will help you in every single area. I mean, I know it's really bad to think that, I mean, you have to know of every single area to know, or every single department, I'm sorry, to make your job right. But I think that this is all about communicating. We're communicating stories. We're making people understand what we have in here and in here. So a very important part of every single department would be, for me, to know of the other areas, at least the very basics, just so you know how to communicate with them to make stories happen. Of course, as a producer, as a director, you have one of the hardest parts of the job that will have to go with every single other area. But if you think of it for a little bit, the art department will have to work with photography, with lighting, with every single department too, photography too. I mean, we all have to work together. So if we all have that connection of already knowing how it is like to be in the other position, that will help you a lot to know how to understand them and how to work with them a lot better. I mean, you don't have to specialize in anything. I mean, if you're going to be a photographer, I don't think that you have to be an amazing production designer, but at least if you know the basics, you'll know how to work better with someone like that. And of course, for a producer, it is an amazing tool to have knowledge in many other departments. Knowledge and experience, of course.
Oh, thank you. That was very insightful.
Thank you, Garrett. I hope it solves the question. It answers it.
Yeah, it does. I think a lot of film producers go into it thinking that they can interweave, but they don't get that experience at the start of it, and they kind of struggle and don't know why because of that.
Yes. It's one of those main things that producers saw with they're just living sometimes in their bubble, and that let them quite understand the creative part of the other departments.
I was going to ask, so you were talking about how you saw the SpaceX rocket towards the beginning of the podcast, and that's kind of a memorable moment in your production. I was going to ask, what production for you was the most memorable, and you came out of the production and you were just super happy with how everything went?
Oh my God, it's a big question. Thanks for asking, Nicholas, but it's a big question to see, or right now to tell you the most. But I can tell you of one thing that actually happened a month ago. I was working in a documentary as a PA, and there was this moment that we had an interview right in the border between Ciudad Juarez and El Paso, Texas. And when we were filming there, we had the shoot. The shot was literally in the river, and we have a part where the train crossed, but we didn't know the exact time of the train or something to happen. And when we were about to begin the shoot, the director just said, "This is my shot. This is gonna be the one thing I'm gonna start with." I mean, the documentary starts with this scene, and suddenly something starts vibrating where we were. and we realized that the train was going to cross right behind us, and it was like, oh my God, this is going to happen. And actually the whole shot was already like lined up for that to happen, even though we didn't knew that it was going to happen. So photography was ready, our department was ready, the guys for the interview were already ready, which was the director and one of the talents. It was not an actor, he's an actual writer, a book writer. But yeah, everything happened so like magically that it came to be like, yeah, we need to wait like 10 minutes more because the train's gonna happen. It's gonna cross literally the border just in front of us. So it was a very magical moment. I don't know if the most magical moment, because I think there's always a lot of magic in many projects, in every single project. And from each project, you're gonna have this moment that you're talking about, this moment of this eureka moment that you get to be like, oh my God, I didn't even knew this was gonna happen. It was not planned, but it made it even more magic than we already were making it. So yeah, that's one of the most eureka moments that I've had in a prediction. I hope it answers.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Question. All right, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
No, it was for you. I was gonna say you had a question.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I didn't hear Garreth earlier. So how do you handle multiple projects? Actually, do you handle multiple projects? And if you do, how do you handle it?
Okay. Yes, I've handled many projects in the same time. I don't think that I've handled like a lot of cinema projects at the same time, but I've had like publicity and music videos that gets like literally in 1 month, and you have to have 5 renders at the end of the month, final renders. So when those times come, I think there's only one thing that you can do. As I already said, you have to have a lot of preparation for your production. I mean, I think pre-production for a producer is like your moment to shine, your moment to have all the tools ready. So in production, you don't struggle. So I think it's a little bit like what usually happens. I don't know if this have happened to you guys, but this part where you're already filming and you're already creating some scene and the director says, we'll leave it to post-production, whatever, we're gonna do it later. That's, I think, the exact same with pre-production and production for a producer. If you start making your pre-production and you decide that you're gonna leave something to the production time, like, I think that I could be more ready for this, I could have more options, but whatever, we'll solve it in production. That's like your red line that you need to make that doesn't happen ever. So if you are really organized in your pre-production and you get everything ready from the beginning with plan A, B, C, D, even a plan C, you'll have all of the tools to not get converged with the projects when you are doing more than one at the same time. You just need to be really organized on your pre-production to be able to work in them, even if they need you to be on the field. Like there's many producers that actually work remotely most of the project and just go to 1 or 2 of the sets while they're making like 3, 4, 5 movies in the same year. And I think that's the key for them. If you are really organized in your pre-production and you have everything here in your mind about how to solve anything that could go wrong, or how you can handle it in a different way, because solving it, it's a very strong word to say it. I think you're not going to be struggling when the time comes for 3, 4, 5 productions are happening in the same dates. That's how I think that I've handled them. Of course, there's always things that happen, and I think everyone who makes cinema will know it. Always there's something that happens, something that goes wrong, something that it's out of the deadlines or something. But being ready for many situations will make you go and flow with them and not just get stressed for anything that happens. Because if you're not ready, it's like an actor when you don't know your script, when you don't know your lines. You go to the set and you're gonna be just thinking about your lines instead of thinking about the moment you're living. So that's exactly the same as a producer. Sorry that many of my references for production comes from acting. So that's the way I kind of see it. But if you are ready, if you have your tools, if you have everything planned, it doesn't matter how many projects you're working in, and they're all going to flow and they're all going to go smoothly.
Yeah, I definitely did notice that with film production when I was taking my course. There was just a lot of organization that was like a little overwhelming for me, because I did want to, be a producer, but I kind of realized, I was like, I think I might not start off there. So that's why I'm focusing more on film editing, but I did notice that about film producing. It's a little, you have to be on point. And if plan A doesn't work, you have to have plan B, plan C, plan D. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and one more thing that I would like to add for you on this one, that's actually very, very important. I think it's one of the most important ones. It's learn to, once again, I don't know if that's the right word, but let me know if you understand me. Learn to deliberate your work to others. You have to learn how to pass on the things that need to happen, because if you don't learn that, that's really overwhelming, because someone comes to you and tells you, I couldn't solve it, I couldn't get the location, like the guy didn't want to work with us or something. If you don't have the ability to let other people know how to handle those situations, everything will go down to you and you'll be solving like 30 things at the same time. So if you learn how to make your people, your crew works with you in the same page that you are in, they'll know that whatever they have to solve, if they are a UPM, a PA, whatever they're working with you, they'll know how to solve it and they'll make it theirs. Because if not, that's when they get like, I don't know how to do it. They get shaky and they try to, okay, yeah, I'm going to tell it to the producer because he's going to solve it. And that's not how it works. You really need your team to be on the same page as you, so they don't give you those extra things to work, but they think about how to solve it for themselves. So having talked to your team before and getting in the same page with them, that's actually one of those very, very important things. So that you don't get overwhelmed with the projects.
Yeah, and they won't like wait around also like for you, and then they can kind of just like move on to the next thing. And I think that will help everything, run smoothly, and quick too. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Leya.
We talked about like the multiple projects. Do you like prefer to work on multiple projects, or do you like to like focus on one if you can?
I think it's difficult for me to answer this because I really love the rush. Right now in this step of my life, I really love the rush of being in many projects, of doing many things at the same time. It kind of gets stressful at some point, of course, if you let many projects come to you. But I think that you can get to know yourself too. I mean, you know how much you can handle at the time. You know how much you can do and when you're going to start slipping on things. So getting to know yourself, to know your limits on that matter, that's really important, first of all. And second of all, that's what I think of myself right now. But I think that'll change with time. I mean, of course, I would love to have a time of my life where I can just pick one project and getting like 5 years to get all of my focus just on that project. And I think that's going to be an experience that I'm going to love at some point. But right now, I really enjoy the rush of being in many things at the same time.
You might have answered this already a couple times about what the most important skill a producer should have. Is there anything you want to elaborate on that?
The most important skill that a producer needs to have?
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I'm sorry that I already like got a little keywords, so I don't forget what I was thinking about telling you guys. But okay, there's like two things that I think are the most important, and they are the communication that you have with all of your team. And let me just find it. Yeah, those things that I already told you about, the communication with other areas and have been in many other areas. I think that will give you a lot of information for you to work with when you are already on the grind. But that's just like two of the most important things. Of course, you have to have a lot of other things. For example, thanks to my mother, I came to life with a lot of organizational skills. I mean, she's really organized, so I kind of got a lot of those, and that helps me a lot in production. But I think that you don't have to be really organized in your life to be a great producer. I mean, I think there's a lot of skills that you can have in the beginning, and then you can learn a lot others on the way. But of course, getting to know how to have an organized life, a chilled life, actually, that you can learn to be like chilled through your day so that you don't get to your work and bring all the stress in your life to your work style. But yeah, I think those will be the main things. And the others is just about getting to use all that you already have and learning how to put it into your work.
Okay. I like those answers too. So do you select directors, or do they come to you? And if you select, how do you choose?
If I'm interested in working with a specific director, writer, or anything, I try to go to it and get to know what we can do together. You know, here in Ciudad Juárez, there's a lot of great creators, great creatives that really make an amazing work just by themselves. So when I see something like that, someone shining just because of their necessity of telling their stories or just doing something about what's here in their head, that's when I really go to them. But sometimes it's something kind of new for me, just like 2 years from now. But there's a lot of young filmmakers that have come to me too and started telling me like, hey, I have this short film, I have this series that I want to make happen. And that's when it comes for me to be like, okay, I gotta be a little specific with you guys too, because I don't want to make you feel like, oh, I'm not gonna get this project because I'm not interested in this young filmmaker, but to make them understand like, I'm going to support you onto making it happen, but this is not the kind of story that I'm going to be able to tell. As I told you in the beginning, if I didn't connect with the story, if I didn't connect with something, there's no reason for me to force it, you know? But when they come to me, these new and young filmmakers, to make their new stories, and I get into the connection with the script or even with the people that's making it happen, then is when I go like, okay, guys, I'm going to go in, but it's gonna be hard, you know. We're gonna have to work our asses off because this is gonna be amazing, and we're just gonna make the best possible out of it. I don't know what it is, and I'm not telling you that we're gonna make a lot of hours for this to happen, or we're gonna give it a lot of money for it to happen, but we are going to do our best, every single one of us, for it to happen. So if I already put those things in the table and those filmmakers were happy, those from these 2 years to now, I've been able to work with them, and that have already made some really good, some really great projects on the outcome. Because as I told you, I really focus on the connection, and if the connection happens, it doesn't matter if I reach someone or if someone reaches me, the story is going to be told.
There's great answers all around. All right. So how do you handle a film's budget? Have you worked with a wide range of budgets, or just, yeah?
I think if we put it in, for example, in USA budgets, I think that I've just worked with small budgets. But if we say it in Mexican budgets, I've worked in different areas with a little bigger budgets from here. It's always difficult to know or to realize where we are going to go with the biggest amounts. I mean, where are you going to put most of your coins into the game? Because you really have to choose at some point. Like sometimes you go for a really recognized actor that you really want in the story because it really connects with what you're working with, but it's going to cost you. Or sometimes it's the director, or sometimes it's even someone that produces even better than you that you want to work with, co-produce with. But that's the one thing that I think is the most important from the budgeting. And of course, letting the work flow with the best situation for everyone involved. For example, here in Mexico, that's a little bit of a sad reality for movie making, that the budgets are not exactly the kind of budget that you can live out of. I mean, even the biggest financial helps that you have here for filmmaking does not let you work with the exact amount that everyone would love to make a year of a living, right? Which is kind of the time that most of the projects will take from you. I mean, not a full-time thing, but kind of. So that's kind of the sad part of it. But the great part of it is that everyone's get really committed to the story when it comes to this situation, because we all have these other things in life that we have to work to get the bread in the table. But you really get to the idea that if you do the best with the budget, you're gonna have the happiest crew working on it. So I think it's one of the very stressful things for a producer to do, to make the hard decisions of how the budget is going to go. But it's a really exciting time of the project, because as I told you a little before, it's those moments as an editor. For example, an editor has this time that it's only you with the story and connecting with what is going to happen. And when you're budgeting, you're playing a little bit with that too, with your time and with a moment with yourself to realize, how are we going to make this real with this amount that we have? How are we going to make the distribution of what we have, even if it's literal money or if it's just in things that cost, but they are giving you for free. There's a lot of things that you really need to consider and see how this huge machinery is going to work. There's actually a phrase that I really like from Orson Welles. I'm going to try to say in English. I'm not sure how to say it, but I'm going to try, which is a painter needs a brush, a writer needs a pen, but a filmmaker needs an army. And that's one of the most beautiful things that I've heard from a filmmaker like Orson Welles. I mean, not personally, of course, just in books and so, but I think that's one of the most important things that you need to consider as a filmmaker in whatever department you're working in, that you're working with an army, you're working with a lot of people, and everyone needs to be in the same connection for this to happen. If you're doing this story and the art department is doing that story and we're all doing different stories, that's going to be the outcome, like just a flush things of everything. But if you're all really connected and have one same goal all together, that's when the magic happens, I think. So if you are aware of that from the budgeting, and you really think of the people you are going to work with as if you were going to the war with them, because that's kind of production time for me. It's a little bit of the war time, that everything gets connected. It's all made for that moment to happen. That's the main core of all that you've been working in. That's how I think that the best that's the best ideas that you can get when you're budgeting a project. Okay, I think it's always going to happen too. I mean, there's always someone who's more inspired than the others, or vice versa. But that's the important part of the beginning of the pre-production. I mean, you have to work with the people that you think that will love the story from whatever it is that they're doing for the project. Even sometimes the doctor that's actually just there to attend any emergency or something. But if every single member really love what they do, it comes to be easy. But usually when you struggle with someone that's not that inspired with your project, or that it feels like it, it's usually because or at least what I've realized, it's people that doesn't love what they're doing. And these people is not wrong. This is just people that's actually in the process of realizing what's exactly that they love. And that's an actual really hard question to answer in life. And I think not just in cinema, and in any other thing that you do in your lifetime, it's really hard to realize and get to know what really moves you. As I told you before, what is the kind of thing that you could die in the line for, and you'll be totally fine with it. Like you'll go with a smile on your face, you know? And many of the situations that I've come to be against someone, to say it somehow, who's not really enjoying things, or that are actually letting your project down because of their energy actually tends to affect the others in the project, is because they're not doing exactly what they love to do. And if from the beginning you make sure that everyone is doing what they love in your project, this is one of those situations that are not going to happen to you, because even if they're stressed, even if something's happening, they're going to let you know, like, you know what, sometimes that's happened to me, that they kind of like, Angel, I'm really stressed right now, don't talk to me, but I promise you I'll do my best and I'll make the work happen. And they live, and literally they just say that, you know, but it's really beautiful, because, you know, they're having some situation in their personal life that's something they're struggling with. And of course, it's very important to open a line with them so they can talk to you about any of those things if they want to. But if they are just not comfortable with what they're doing, if it's not what they love, if it's not their passion, this is just going to be like, can you help me with putting away this trash bag or something? And they're like, I don't want to do that. I hate that. That's when you realize, dude, I mean, you're not going to work in this project because you don't really like what you're doing. And I mean, sometimes producing, it's this fancy part of going to the meetings with the clients and pitching your idea and being like, blah, blah, blah. But sometimes producing, it is throwing that trash bag too, you know? And sometimes many other areas are that simple too, that sometimes it's really complicated what you have to do, and sometimes it's really simple. But if you are connected to the reality that it needs to happen, you need to make it happen with the facilities that you have and with the difficult parts of your project, and you're really connected with what you're doing for this story, I think then you don't have any doubt of doing what you love.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Nice. We're on the same page then, Alex.
So, final question from our list. So to you, what makes a film a success? You know, when do you say this is really good, I'm proud of it, and then stamp it done?
I think it's two things. Two of the most important things for me are that everyone, when I see a project and say this was a total success, it's because everyone are happy with the process, with what they made in the way. If they're happy with that, I mean, it can happen. It can happen that the process is amazing and the results is not that much. But if you make the people, everyone involved, enjoy the process, most of the time, the result in your eyes are going to be amazing. Even if you put it out in the cinemas and people say it's like, this is a disgusting movie, man. It doesn't work. I hate it. It doesn't matter, because you show it to the crew that was involved, to the people that gave their hearts to the project, and they're just going to love it as much as you, because the process was really taken care of, and the result gives you that. Even if for some people it's trash, for you're going to be the proudest person on earth for what you've made. So I think those are the two most important things, that everyone in the crew are happy with the process, with what they've made and what they've made happen, and with the result, then you've made a total success. Even if the budgets didn't come up, even if anything comes up out of the project, if you and the crew and the people that made it happen are happy with it, that's a total success for me.
So a failure is what? Have you worked in a failure?
Excuse me?
So then, what about what would you consider a movie you've done a failure before, or no?
Okay, a failure. I think it is when you think that you're working with the right people for the project, that you think uh, in the beginning of it, you think that you made it right with the people that you're connecting. And then it comes to the days or the weeks of production, and they're all fighting and nobody talks to each other. And they're just like, I'm gonna do my job and I don't care if photography does it wrong, or I don't care if our department does it wrong. My job's gonna be right. And I don't care about anybody else. That's when I think it was failure. It all went wrong because people are not connecting. The story is not connecting with the people well enough for the people to be able to enjoy the process. So that's when I think it fails. I mean, it's okay. We are made of failures. At least we all need to learn from failures, because if we don't fail, we don't learn. And if we don't learn, we don't make things grow. So I think it's very important to have those failures, to be able to go through them and be okay with them, actually. But yeah, I do think there are failures in the projects, and these are the times that I will consider a failure when they happen.
That's all the questions we wrote.
Do you think that like failures like help you grow as a producer though?
Of course, yes. And failures, I think, are the most important part of your learning process, because if you don't fail, it means you didn't even try. So if you didn't even try, you won't succeed, like, ever, because success is something personal. It's something that you feel. It's not something that the people tells you that, oh, you succeed, it's something really good. No, success is something that you have to feel inside of you. So if you don't ever fail, then you won't ever really feel success, I think. So yeah, I think it's one of the most important part of the process.
I was gonna ask, was there, when you're talking about producing with young filmmakers, was there like a story that someone pitched to you and you were just instantly on board with the idea?
To be truth, not yet. Yes, I mean, I know that's gonna happen because there's a lot of great creatives, and there's a lot of great creatives out there. I mean, right now I'm here in Ciudad Juarez, Chihuahua, but I really think that the most you go out there and meet new people and get to know new filmmakers, you'll become a best producer too, because you learn from many different ways of doing things. And I'm pretty sure eventually I'm going to reach that young someone that's going to impress me with their stories. But to be truth, it hasn't happened. To this moment, the young filmmakers I've worked with, they impressed me with their work, with what they do on production, with the love they have for this. That's impressed me, and many times. But a script, the very first thing that they show me from their work, no, to be truth, it has been things that what from my experience have been like, okay, this is good and this is something we can work with, but it lacks of many things. And that's when I start to give that help to them, to like, I mean, I really like it, but try to talk with this guy that actually works in writing since a very long time ago, and he could help you on this one. Or try to talk with this person that your documentary is all about this, and this movement, or this person, or this someone could help you give it a little more strength to the story. But yeah, just from the script, I haven't been impressed to this day from a new filmmaker.
And I also remember you talking about working on, I believe you said you worked on music videos also. And I was going to ask, what do you like about working on music videos compared to something in like a normal film production?
I think what I like the most is the connection you can make with the music. it's very interesting. I mean, I've been in many situations with music videos because there's been this kind of artists that tell me like, I already made the music and I don't want to get involved in the visuals. You do your job, you do your thing. And well, that gives you a lot of creative premises, but I think that's not that cool. The best experiences I've had with music video or with music artists, it's when they are really involved in the visual part of their project, when they're like already having this idea and they tell you like, I mean, I have this, I've tried this, it doesn't work when I try to do it. That's why I'm hiring you. But I really want to connect with this story and I want to make this happen. And they have all these ideas flowing to how to pass their music to visuals. Sorry. And I think that's when I really enjoy the music videos happen, because there's plenty of artists, like really big artists actually, that people may think that, nah, this dude is like really mean and he might not be just a cool creative to work with. But when you really get to it with them and they open themselves to work with someone that may, for example, as me, that may not have such a huge name in the industry or something like that, but they don't care about that. They just care about the connection they're having with you. That's when I really have enjoyed the music videos, because they are really great people. I mean, many times we just picture them as these public images that they are, and like these gods that we see on TV, but they're just people. They're just people. They're just creatives, and amazing creatives sometimes that have these stories that they want to tell. Their way is the music, but they can give you a lot to you as an audiovisual from their perspective that comes from music. So that connectivity with the musicians, I think that's the best part for me. And working just like that in a music video, it's a pretty cool rush too, because there's like this other thing that you have to add. You keep having your art department, you still have your photography department, lighting, but now you do have a client there on set doing their thing too, like they're really like acting or playing their music, and something that you have to add to the list of things that you need to be taking care of. So that gives it this extra rush to the projects. And I don't know, as I told you before, I really like the rush. So that part's really gives me a lot to work with.
Thank you.
All right, cool. So do you have any thing you want to say before we finish, Angel?
Oh, well, I will just really like to thank you, all of you, for inviting me and for having me here. And yeah, of course, if there's anything ever that I could help you with from here, having an interview, or anytime, like in the projects, like having a consultation or anything I could help you with, like I just want to let that door open for you guys. And again, thanking you and saying a little bit for my people back here, y decirles muchas gracias por invitar gente mexicana también al proyecto. Qué chingón que se animen a invitar.
No problem. All right. Thanks for being on the show, Angel.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Angel.
Thank you.
Thank you, Leya. Thank you, Garreth. Thank you, Nicholas. Thank you, Alex.